it's a shame I didn't press record before you said all those nice things, and then I could post it everywhere.
I can say them again if you like.
No. I'm just joking. That's all right.
Lovely. So I'm going to turn my microphone and video off. So I will be sitting and learning with you.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Michelle. That was awesome. Thank you. So welcome to today. As you heard Michelle say, my name's Courtney. If I haven't met you before, it's really nice to meet you now. So I've been working in pricing for about the past year or so. I work predominantly with small and micro businesses and help them with any kind of pricing challenges that they have. Today, what I want to talk to you about is pricing and marketing during a pandemic. I'm sure I don't need to say the C word, and not the really bad C word that you're thinking of, but the other C word that we keep seeing everywhere at the moment. What I'm going to do as I set up is I'm just going to share my screen with you and take you through the document for today. So the key takeaways I want you to take from today is I want you to understand, or at least understand a bit more about how the customer's brain works when it's in a state of fear, anxiety, or panic. This is referring to system 1 versus system 2 thinking. This is something I'll explain as we go through. The second thing I want you to take away from today is to understand loss aversion and loss gain language. What will make your customers run to you and what will make them run from you? This is referring to prospect theory. And then finally, trust. Ways to build trust through guarantees, social proof, and displaying weakness. And I'm referring to alchemy there. So first up, fear, the brain, and your customers. So we know that we're in a pandemic at the moment and there's a lot of news going on. Everyone's worried, everyone's stressed. People are uncertain about what's going to be there in the future. We know that there'll be lots of challenges. There have been already and are continuing to be and will continue to be for some time in the future. Challenges for individuals, businesses, and economies, but we don't know exactly what will happen. What we do know is that how these kinds of events tend to affect people psychologically. It leads them to think differently, behave differently, and make decisions really differently, including why, how, and when they buy from you, how often they buy from you, how they perceive you and your product or service, and so on. Fear is an incredibly compelling state of the brain, and it comes from one of the most powerful areas of our brain. This is why it's so difficult for us to talk ourselves out of feeling fearful. If you've ever been in a situation where you're going to go speak in public or go fly on an airplane, things that you know are pretty much safe and guaranteed to be okay, but you still feel so scared that you can't move that fear, that's what that is. It's coming from such a powerful place in your mind, and the same is true for your customers when they're thinking about buying. So this is an example of system 1 thinking. So there's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow that I highly recommend you buy and read. It's by Daniel Kahneman, who's one of the greatest behavioral economics thinkers in the world. And basically what he talks about is system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. System 1 thinking is automatic, it's instinctive, it's reactive, it's emotional and irrational. It's kind of like the lizard part of the brain. And system 2 is the rational, reflective, intelligent, wise side of the brain. It's the brain that's thought to be the least, the youngest in age in terms of an evolutionary perspective. So to conserve the resources in our brain will actually manage most of our thinking and behavior on system 1. You would probably think that we do a lot of it on system 2, thinking logically and making plans and making good decisions throughout the day. But most of the decisions that we make on system 1, that automatic, reactive, instinctive system of thinking. We form attitudes and biases, heuristics, rules of thumb, and stereotypes to help us process information and make decisions really quickly. This means day to day we actually rely on our emotions, such as fear, to make these decisions a lot more than we realize. This is probably true for you, and it's probably really true for your customers, that the fear and uncertainty that they might be feeling, even if it's quite low, it will be impacting the decisions that they make. It will be impacting how willing they are to buy things, the kind of things that they're going to buy now, and that's a really important thing to be aware of. The thing is that fear isn't a bad thing. A lot of people think that fear is a bad thing, and certainly when it's a lot, if someone has really serious anxiety issues, that can be really problematic. But it's actually a protective defense mechanism, and it's vital that we as business owners understand this. It's a good thing that we feel fear. It's what stops most of us from doing stupid things that might harm us, so risky activities or risky behavior. From an evolutionary perspective, it's helped us survive. Those of us around today are descended from people who basically lived long enough and didn't make any stupid mistakes to reproduce, which is good news for us here today. So coming back to the 21st century now, what does this mean for us? People are different now, but we're also the same. Yes, we're more evolved than our caveman days, but a lot of the ways that we think and ways that we behave are actually quite similar. And if you begin to deepen and broaden your understanding of that, you'll start to manage your business in such a way that's managing it for humans rather than this idea of what people are like in terms of being these rational, always thoughtful, always intelligent beings that sometimes humans are portrayed to be when we're not always. The other thing is that fear is there to protect your customer, and you need to remember that. The key thing with this is that by being aware of it, the next step is to disarm it. Be aware of this state of mind when you're writing a post, an ad, a blog, or any copy that you're writing, or if you're in direct contact with a customer. Be aware of the fact that they might be feeling a little bit of fear, a little bit of uncertainty right now. Might not be directly with you. It might be uncertainty around the fact that they might have their kids home from school an extra 2 weeks these school holidays. That's certainly causing me a bit of anxiety and fear. Even though it might not be directly related to you, it might still be impacting them subconsciously. And that's where their decisions are being made. That's why it's so important to keep in mind when you're planning out your marketing, when you're planning out all of your communications, to keep that in mind.